The 100 Season 4, Episode 8, God Complex. Once again, this episode does what I've been saying for, excuse me, probably really the whole season. A back and forth. It's been a back and forth. This was, as always, a good episode, but once again we had that back and forth dynamic of something good happening, something bad happening, and in this case, the bad thing is that they are no longer able to test an actual cure, which I was very surprised by, because honestly, with this being the whole point of the episode, I was really shocked that we only got to see one test really happen. So we of course have the test of Bayless. So of course he gets put in there, and at first it starts off pretty good. They put the blood in his system. He's actually making night blood cells on his own, and so he's actually able to survive acid rain. It's up to the point where that amount of radiation is nothing to him. And I was like, well, that's really good. But of course, that's honestly the most minute step, is the acid rain killing people. So they're trying to kick it up, and it's like, okay, it's surviving, he's surviving, and then once it hits, he's done for. Like, the boils start forming, and he's coughing up black blood, he's dead. Like, he is done for, and that is it. And that's when things get revealed as far as Amori and Murphy, where it's like, these were the bracelets of his people, and that's where we get Clark, which is like, oh, he was from a different clan. I don't believe they've ever actually said that clan name before, but it was close to being basically just Samgetta. It was pretty much really close to that, but there was like some extra little syllable in there that made it a little bit different. And so she looks at Amori, and Amori's just kind of frozen in place. It's like, he's not from where you're from, is he? And it's like, well, he's a thief and a liar. It's like, yeah, but he could be a thief, but he didn't have the markings, which, you would have the markings, period. Whether you're a thief or not, you'd have that before, being a thief if you're born there. So, of course, it's revealed that Amori basically just sent this random dude in because she didn't want to be the person to die. And naturally, she is the next person to die. And she would have been the first person anyway, because they wouldn't have chosen Murphy because he's still one of their people. So they would have chosen Amori anyway. And of course, that's the decision that they make. And we had a great scene for Murphy. Honestly, probably my favorite scene we've ever had of Murphy in the entire series. As great as he was as like the douchebag villain in season 1, when he was just the typical douchebag villain character, great freaking moment for him. He legitimately cried, and I'm pretty sure we've seen that maybe once before. I honestly can't remember, but whether we have or haven't is irrelevant, because this is the part I will always remember for his character as far as, very serious emotion, because this is the one person that he truly, truly cares about, and he knows that they won't use him, even though that's kind of what he's pleading, like, don't do this, like, take me and stuff. And it was just a phenomenal scene with him crying and not being able to escape and do anything about it. And I loved it. So, of course, they end up knocking her out by force. And then we have an amazing line from Raven. I think that was actually beforehand, but the stuff with Luna was really good when they knocked her out. And she's like, so you're just going to knock her unconscious and steal her bone marrow? And she's like, welcome to my weather. And I was just like, that is the perfect line to have right there. So that was a great moment. And that was just one line. That was just a great line. And then the stuff with Murphy was absolutely phenomenal. And then we actually have the ending sequence where, instead of them actually testing on Amori, Clark decides to inject herself. She's like, we're going to test it on me. And she's like, I forgot the exact line, but it was basically, heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's another way to put it. So she was going to do it herself, and her mother would not allow it because she's like, I saw it. I saw it happen. And Raven chimes in for a quick second, like, how I saw the rocket. And they don't really go into it, and I thought they'd go into like a little bit further, but maybe we'll get to see that in the next episode, like her having these visions and what that truly does mean, because if I remember right, that is the first time that she's actually kind of announced it to the other characters, which is why I thought it would be a bigger deal in that moment. But she did just destroy like their one way to actually test, whether or not they can all survive. So it was pretty interesting how it was like, Raven chimed in, but then it was just like, boom, it went right past it after that. And I was like, okay, this has to be important in the next episode, where they talk about her having these visions, just like Raven did. So I'm looking forward to that, just for kind of where that's going to lead. But she destroyed the chamber, so of course they don't get to test it. That whole side of the storyline is gone now, and they end up meeting with the rest of the characters. I didn't know if they would or not. I figured that they would still be there. And maybe we'll see them go back to this facility, because I'm sure there's still something that they can do with it being a secondary facility and stuff like that. But a big part of everything that's going on is the fact that none of these characters can survive the radiation, which is going to be a big part of next week's episode, because of course the other half of the story is still what is our secondary solution if they can't figure out a scientific way to make us a cure? Can we find something else that will save us all? And they go back to the bunker idea. And we find out that the cult activity that came from, like, you know, a world is going to be destroyed and everything like that, and they found or Jaha found, like, the crappy bunker where everybody was dead. We find out that this is actually kind of, like, this occult is, like, almost another thing that kind of lasted in this new post-apocalyptic future. And I thought that was cool. The rising from the ashes, like the Phoenix sort of deal, was actually one of the sayings that was created by just a crazy cult group, you know, a century beforehand. So I thought that was really, really well done. And they go on this mission. We get to see Indra again. We get to see her daughter Gaia, which was really cool. I forgot that was her name. I really love that name. But, you know, they end up meeting with them. So we have Kane, we have Jaha, and we actually have, boy, Monty and Jasper had some good moments in this one, for sure. Of course, we have, I don't know what's going to happen with the guy. But with Jasper, it's hard to say where he's headed. Really hard to say. But him and Bellamy had some stuff. Hopefully I'm not mixing up. I always worry if I'm mixing up the names, but I'm pretty sure I always have them right. But really worried about them. But they both had some good moments, and Monty figures out that the coin is literally meant to be burned. It's not just some random saying that's cool. It's meant to be like a riddle or like a test for people smart enough to figure out how to reach the next level. So of course he figures that out by the time they get to the end of the episode, and they burn the medallion, and the tiny little piece comes out. And so, unlike the first time Jaha put it down, which I love that scene because it was so funny, because he put it in and nothing happened, and it's just like, what's that? He was like a little kid where he just kind of picked it up and dropped it, and he was like nudging it to try to figure it out, and I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna work. And he's just like just touching it with his fingers, trying to like force it to work. And I just thought it was funny. It wasn't meant to be, but I was like, it just looked funny because he's like, do something, and he's just like nudging it a little and like twisting it. But he finds out, you know, after they burn it, they find the actual pyramid within the middle is the actual coin. So they're allowed to put that into it and turn, and that's the whole key to unlock the bunker, which certainly is a safe position. As soon as it opened, I was like, yep, you can hear that there was like a seal of air that, you know, kind of was released. So of course it's a protected bunker that no one has ever been in before. And it makes me wonder if anyone at all was in there, because the way they showed it when Jaha first went down, it was completely empty. There were like no dead bodies or any of that stuff. It was like completely emptied. And it makes me wonder, maybe those people did survive the initial explosion and everything, but, you know, maybe some of them left after a certain amount of time. You, of course, don't have food. So maybe that's when they took off, and, you know, over time they were either able to survive, or if it was like Mount Weather, they just flat out died super fast as soon as they left to, you know, try to get more food. But I thought it was great. They have an actual bunker. Same thing kind of applies to when they were with Arcadia, where it's like we have, I would assume, a certain amount of people. We only got to see a very small glimpse, and it was kind of like a circular formation once they get past the part with like the stairs and stuff. It almost made me think of like a jail, like just a double-layered jail. But it seems a fairly decent size, but I'm sure they're still going to have to pick and choose, who lives and who dies, who's able to actually survive within it. And then another big thing is people deciding, whether or not they want to survive within this bunker. And they have a big deal with that, because like, well, if that is literally it, if they cannot find a cure, they will be trapped underground forever. And it's not like with Mount Weather, where it's like, yeah, we're trapped inside forever, but it's a bunch of people. We have food and things like that. We have masks to go outside. We also have, you know, just all the other crazy experiments and stuff that we're doing as well. But they had really good facilities and electricity and all sorts of things to survive forever, pretty much. And this is definitely not that same sort of situation. This is just some underground concrete with no lights at this point. So maybe, you know, there's something going on there with the generator. Maybe they could figure something out as far as solar panels. And even in that case, they wouldn't have enough time to like build a new facility around it that could possibly be airtight enough to protect people and build things. And of course they could go outside if they have suits on and things like that, but it's still just nuts. It's just like, okay, they have a facility, but they don't really have a cure. They at least can't test it. They might have it. The only way they could possibly test it at this point would be to see what happens with Clark. If she's like, well, here he comes, let's see what happens, and then she just runs out and, you know, she either lives or she dies, if if that's the only way they can do it, I don't know how that's going to play out, because they would still have to get Luna to go to the bunker, and then they would have to wait for every single person, and of course by that time so many people would be dead because they don't have a cure, so they still aren't letting every single person know exactly what's going on. So it's just crazy. It's like, I don't really know what to think, and we're still so early in the season. It's really hard to say where things are headed. Of course, we have the Black Rain. We get to see Polis again as well. Not so chaotic. Of course, I mentioned, if they ever end up going there, we'll have war and this and that. Didn't get to see too much of the war because Poison Death Rain will kind of wipe all that crap out. So a lot of people were just dead. Fortunately, of course, Indra did survive because she was indoors or whatever. She's the main character, so plot armor is what it's called. So I'm fine with that because I love Indra. And so we have all these characters that are alive and very few who know the truth. And I'm just excited to see where things are headed. But this was a good episode, as always. And I'm just really curious, with them not having even the ability to test this cure, Clark, if she wants to, the only way she could test it would basically be to get closer to where, the winds are kind of coming in. And that's about all they've got. If she basically gets to, like, where we first saw in the premiere, where the woman went up the hill and she, like, just burned away because there was so much radiation. Basically, that's all Clark can do, is just go towards the radiation and see what happens. And if she lives, if she can go through and she, everything's like green and yellow around her, she knows she's covered in radiation. And if she lives, hey, we got a cure. And she heads back, and they just keep things going, and they try to cure as many people as they possibly can. And I guess if that's the case, just cure the most important people first, and then leave everybody else in the bunker, and then be like, hey, we'll build facilities around you and stuff. And considering it's with Luna, they might take a minute, because of course you can't just suck all that blood out of one person and expect them to survive. So, they'd have to do that, and then probably wait, because I don't, as far as what they're doing with the Nightblood, where at this point, Clark is a Nightblood because she's making the blood herself, and she's, making those blood cells. So maybe they could extract it from every person that it works on, and they continue that process. I don't really know blood work, so I don't know if that would work, or it has to be from, like, the, prime person, if it has to be from Luna in order for that specific procedure to work. And plus, not everyone, would be able to accept it and have that procedure work. So there's a lot a lot to look forward to in the future, and just a lot of craziness going on right now. But really enjoyed this one. I was glad Jaha found that bunker too. I just thought it was a cool concept. And early on, it was of course before Arcadia was completely destroyed, so they need this bunker now. So really enjoyed that. I was glad they found it. They still have, those little bits of, that little bit of Arcadia that has, actually managed to survive, which only fit like less than half the people, I believe. Unless they all want to be crammed together, it probably could still fit most of the people, but obviously there would be nowhere to go. So, they have that little bit of Arcadia, which once again, no water and all that stuff as well, so still need to find something to do with that. They found this bunker as a place to live, which, as it was mentioned in the promo, not exactly a way to live, just living underground until we drop dead with literally nothing to do but just walk around and stand near each other. And that's it. So they got this bunker. Maybe they have a cure. We don't know what Clark is going to do to try to test it out herself. So we'll see what happens there. But really enjoyed this one, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know where you think they're headed as far as having a cure. Because personally speaking, with this bunker, it's not good enough for them to survive. They would live there, and that's it. They would never be able to go on the surface ever again, unless they had technology to basically track when the levels were low enough. If it got like super windy and it blew most of the radiation away, and it's like, okay, during this part of the year they can come out and try to get some stuff done and then go back in when the radiation comes back. But after a certain amount of time, it would just be normal. It would just be radiation. And they mentioned it already, smaller creatures that can't survive, they can't survive off of. Smaller creatures on the chain, with them being at the top, fish dying off, smaller creatures, rabbits, and then eventually bigger creatures, deer, and things like that. Those creatures dying off, there's nothing to eat, plants and stuff, and at some point, you gotta have something to kind of put some fat on you, because otherwise you just get too skinny. So I don't know what they're going to do, but there's got to be some sort of cure in the works, or unless they build a giant facility and kind of slowly work towards a cure in the next season. Who the heck knows? But it was really great in this one. Like I said, We would love to know where you guys think they're headed as far as the next phase of a possible cure. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.